Today I'm going to explain a drama, horror, mystery, and thriller film called The Orphanage. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In 1975 Spain, a girl named Laura resides at an orphanage and soon gets adopted. 30 years later, she lives with her husband Carlos and their son, Simon, who is 7 years old. She decides to reopen the orphanage and turn it into a facility for children with special needs. One day as Simon plays around their home, he talks to his parents about his two invisible friends, Watson and Pepe, but Laura and Carlos are passive about it. Later, Laura accompanies Simon to the nearby beach where a big cave is located. Claiming that the cave is a chamber for keeping special treasures, Laura lets her son leave one of his belongings inside while she waits by the entrance. It takes the boy some time to return, so Laura calls him and enters the cave after not receiving a response. She sees Simon talking alone, but he claims that he was conversing with a new friend. When she checks, she sees nothing but tiny footprints that lead to a dead end. During a rainy day at their home, Benigna Escobedo arrives and identifies herself as a social worker. Laura welcomes her inside, and they both talk about how the orphanage will operate. Benigna reveals that she stopped by the house as she is Simon's adoption consultant, revealing that the couple adopted him. The elderly lady questions Laura about the boy's health because he has a pre-existing illness, but Laura gets mad about her intrusion and sends her away. While examining Simon's files, she finds out that her adoptive son is HIV positive, raising concerns about the little boy. At nightfall, Laura is awakened by noises outside, where she spots Benigna in a shed snooping around as if she is looking for something important. Before she can confront her, the elderly lady rushes out of the property. Laura wakes Carlos up to look for the lady but soon discovers that she is gone. The following day, Laura opens the front door and sees a pile of seashells just outside her door, but she does not pay much mind to it, thinking that Simon may be behind it. In their living room, Simon tells his mother that he has 6 new friends in total and claims that he will just be like them. He also adds that he won't grow old and that he will stay with them. Shortly after, Laura sees a sketch of the 6 friends that Simon claims to have and confronts him about the drawing. According to him, his invisible friends steal treasures, and the owner has to find them by following clues, and if successful, they grant a wish in return. He tells his mother that he has agreed to play with his friends, prompting a scavenger hunt game. It involves finding clues around their home to retrieve the coins that his invisible friends hid. The two of them spend a significant amount of time rummaging around their home, from Simon's room to the garden, to the chapel, and finally, to the kitchen where his adoption file is. With a key, Simon unlocks a drawer where he finds his coins hidden between the pages of his file before telling Laura that he knows he is adopted. Enraged by this, Laura asks him who told him, to which he replies that Tomas, one of his invisible friends, did. With agitation, Simon tells Laura that he knows he will die soon, which puts his mother in a state of confusion. After the incident, Laura and Carlos decide to have a serious conversation with Simon to explain their family situation, inviting him to ask questions. First, he asks what will happen to him if he stops taking the medication that his parents provide, raising concerns about his health. However, his parents assure him that he is perfectly fine and will always be there for him if he gets sick. During the preparation for the reopening of the orphanage, Simon and Laura get into an argument. Simon wants to visit his friend, but his mother is just too busy to entertain his requests. Laura explains that she does not have time for it, causing her son to have a tantrum. Because of his insistent manner of seeing Tomas' house, Laura slaps Simon, which she immediately regrets. The party's theme is an animal masquerade, which requires the guests to wear masks that resemble any kind of animal. Among the guests is the kid who looks exactly like the one in Simon's drawing, whom he calls Tomas. Laura enters the house to make amends with Simon and let him join the party, but Tomas follows her along the hallways. In a sinister way, he approaches Laura and shoves her into the bathroom, locking her inside, so she calls out for help. As she gets out with the help of Carlos and other guests, she looks for Simon in a small room, but construction scaffoldings are scattered. She rearranges it and realizes that Simon is missing after looking for him in and out of the house. She runs to the beach, attempting to enter the cave, but Carlos saves her from the crashing waves. Instead, they put everything in the hands of the authorities while Laura seeks medical attention at a nearby hospital. Carlos informs Laura that Simon was not found inside the cave, but she is insistent on seeing someone. He is backed up by Pilar, the head police psychologist, who explains that Laura must have imagined it. Pilar is part of the investigation team on Simon's whereabouts. According to her, he might have been kidnapped by a relative, also given that they had an intruder in the past days. When Laura tells Pilar about Benigna, the psychologist reveals that no social worker is registered under that name, hinting that she may be their son's captor. The devastated Laura is currently bound to a wheelchair after an injury in the sea, so Carlos entrusts his medallion to her as an expression of comfort. That night, Laura dreams of swimming in the ocean and wakes up to mysterious noises from the hallway. The noises lead her to Simon's room, where she finds a doll under his sheets. After 6 months, Simon's parents feel more and more forsaken as there is no progress on tracking him down. Laura and Carlos have extracted all their means to reunite with their son, but to no avail. As a means of coping, they join a support group, where Laura shares about Simon's imaginary friends. The members explain that it is normal to see visions of loved ones after their death, but Laura is confident that her son is still alive. On a snowy day, the couple spots Benigna, who crosses the street while pushing a baby carriage downtown. After Laura recognizes her, she immediately gets out of the car in hopes of finding Simon. The elderly lady gets fatally hit by a speeding ambulance out of nowhere, as Laura and other people watch in horror. Laura rushes under the ambulance where the carriage is, only to find a doll that looks exactly like Tomas. Before they could extract any information, Benigna sadly dies on the cold street. Laura approaches to look at her familiar face, but when she touches her necklace, the old woman comes back to life for a second. Her deformed face and bloody appearance terrify not only Laura but the rest of the witnesses. After the tragic incident, Pilar gathers pictures and film reels from Benigna's house to investigate. It is then revealed that Benigna used to work at the orphanage where Laura used to live. Unknown to many, she had a son named Tomas, who was kept hidden because of his deformities. While showing news articles about Tomas' disappearance, Pilar informs Laura that the boy vanished shortly after her adoption. Furthermore, they find out that the other orphans played a trick on him by stealing his mask while at the cave to see if he would come out. The embarrassed boy never emerged from his hiding place, and was drowned by the rising tides. After being convinced that she saw Tomas, Laura plays Benigna's film reels that show what Tomas' real face looked like. It shows that he is deformed and different from the rest. That night, Laura feels her husband cuddle up in bed with her, and she recalls precious moments they had with Simon. Amid the fond memories, Laura hears the doorknob move, revealing that Carlos was not the one in bed with her. At this moment, it is indisputable that something or someone is haunting her once peaceful life. Desperate for answers, Laura seeks assistance from a parapsychology expert named Professor Leo Balaban. She expresses the strange things that have happened since Simon vanished, even providing a piece of Benigna's clothing. After examining the item, Professor Balaban puts Laura in contact with Aurora, a medium who is a good friend of his. During their first meeting, Aurora tags along her sound technician named Enrique as part of the procedure. While Aurora summons the spirit using a doll, the rest watch from a separate room. As the seance progresses, Aurora walks around the orphanage while Enrique traces her steps, hoping that it might give a clue to help find Simon. In a secluded room, Aurora hears the cries of the orphans desperately crying for help and sees them in such a dire state. The others could also hear the children's spirits with the sound machine while Professor Balaban instructs Aurora what to say, do, or ask. She claims to see 5 children in the room, but after she asks if Simon is with them, the power lines are cut off, ending the seance abruptly. Aurora describes her visions back in the living room in great detail but apologizes for not gaining a clue on Simon's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Carlos and Pilar remain unconvinced about paranormal matters, remaining skeptical on the subject. Before leaving, Aurora tells Laura that she is nearing death, and so is her ability to see the dead. Both of them also reveal wounds on their arms caused by the spirit circling the orphanage. Laura sinks deeper into depression and explores the contents of the orphanage on her own. A window suddenly falls into a window seat in a room, where she uncovers dolls just beneath it. As a clue, she sees a picture of her and Simon, which prompts her into conducting a scavenger hunt, Simon's favorite game. Laura starts by browsing through her son's childhood pictures, where she sees a dried rose in one of the albums. To continue, she comes to the garden, where she sees a piece of cloth that resembles one of their blankets. Laura rummages through their closet to find the blanket and uncovers a candy packet, giving away that the next clue is inside Simon's memory box. Inside, Laura sees a doorknob, and as a means to get the next clue, she searches for an empty knob inside the house but finds nothing. After failed attempts, she opts to go to the coal shed, where she finds Benigna's locket near a coal chamber. Thinking that it might be a clue, she breaks the door open and retrieves sacks from inside the small and cramped chamber. To her surprise, there happen to be 5 human carcasses that terrify her beyond belief. Devastated, she finds out that the bodies belong to her childhood friends, Martin, Rita, Alicia, Guillermo, and Victor. Benigna poisoned their meals to avenge Tomas' death and came to the shed after 3 decades to recover the bodies. Laura explains her theory to Carlos, who cannot grasp the situation, making him leave in the middle of the overwhelming situation. Despite his pleas that they stay together, Laura decides to stay at the orphanage alone. She makes the place look as it did 3 decades ago by rearranging the furniture and other functions of the house. To make it more convincing, she even dresses as an employee before taking an excessive amount of sedatives. The high dosage will put her into a state of near death, making her more receptive to the spirits' messages. With the doorknob in her hand, she begins to contact the spirits, but they completely disregard her. A bright idea comes to mind when she remembers one of her favorite games from before, where a player knocks 3 times as the other players come from behind. Laura knocks enough times for the children to come at a close distance before she could chase them along the dark halls. The children lead her to a small room where construction materials are at, hinting Simon's whereabouts. The distressed Laura tears down the wallpaper and inserts the knob into a door, which leads to an underground room. She descends to the stairs where an empty room which used to be Tomas' abode. From a corner, Laura sees Simon silently lying down and embraces her son at that instant. Simon seems perfectly calm and well despite being away for such a long time, relieving all of his mother's worries. While Laura clings to her son and gives him words of comfort, she realizes that Simon's weight becomes lighter. Not long after, she realizes that she is only holding a piece of cloth, and Simon's body lies on the cold floor in another corner. She finds her son's corpse and shrieks out of grief, realizing what really caused his death. While looking for Simon on the night of his disappearance, Laura arranged pieces of construction scaffolding, which blocked the entrance to the secret room. The mysterious and crashing noises that night were actually caused by Simon trying to get out. In his desperate attempt, he fell down the stairs and fatally broke his neck. Dramatically, Laura brings her son to the bedroom before taking an excessive amount of sleeping medication. She holds Simon close just as she does with Carlos' medallion, slowly letting out her final breath. After some time, the mother and son wake up in a room full of orphans, even reuniting with her childhood friends. They all happily gather together and immediately see Laura as their motherly figure. At that moment, she tells them a story just before bedtime, and the children are comforted by her loving presence. Time has passed, and Carlos visits a gravestone just outside the orphanage before he enters the house. In their old bedroom, he finds the medallion he entrusted to Laura and can't help but recall their fond memories. The door opens just before him, and in a comforted manner, he smiles.